Yes, it's that time of the week, time for the NFC West Huddle. That's where we go around the horn and check in with each guy and gal in each market as they update us on each team in the NFC West. In L.A., we've got Gerard Moncrier. He is the pride of Chico State. We got the McFlurry Queen in San Francisco, Bailey O'Carroll. And how about the Aaron Levine, the star of Dream Job Season 1. I'm Richard Sines, the owner, head coach, and GM of the Chimichangas of Fantasy Football Dynasty. It's week 3 of the National Football League, but let's go back to week 2 and find out what we liked in week 2, right? Gerard, we start with you. The Rams get roughed up by the Arizona Cardinals at home for the Cardinals, the home opener, and boy, that was a tough loss for the Rams. Anything positive you can take from that game?
There was nothing that went well for the Rams in week 2. Kyler Murray did whatever he wanted, 17 of 22, 266 yards, 3 touchdown passes right off the bat, and the Rams were trailing 21-0. The game was basically over in the second quarter. Matthew Stafford was sacked 5 times. The Rams only rushed against that Cardinal defense for 53 yards. On top of that, Cooper Kupp gets hurt in the second quarter with a left ankle sprain. He's going to miss a couple of weeks. Offensive lineman Jonah Jackson re-injures his shoulder injury. He's headed to the injured reserve list. And on the defensive side of the ball, John Johnson III, also hurt, headed to the IR. If the Rams don't have enough injuries already, I mean, they picked up enough for an entire season after the week 2 loss. So there was really nothing positive about what happened in the desert in week 2 against the Cardinals for the Rams.
But you know what? If anybody could turn that program around, that franchise, it's you, Gerard, because you're a winner. All you do is win, win, win no matter what, right? You were with the Cowboys in '96, the three-peat with the Lakers, the Warriors, the Rams. You could do it. For Ram fans, don't lose faith just yet. Now, Bailey, your 49ers, they made the Vikings look like the Purple People Eaters. Younger viewers out there, Google the Purple People Eaters, right? The Vikings get the win over the 49ers. What was the one positive you could take from that loss to the Minnesota Vikings, Bailey?
I'm going to give you 2 quick positives, so I'll do 2 half positives that equal 1. And I'm going to say on the offensive side, Jordan Mason looked great. Of course, the Niners still missing Christian McCaffrey, but Mason rushed for 100 yards. So I think that's kind of given fans kind of the take the deep breath that we're going to be okay without Christian McCaffrey in the backfield. But I think the other thing is the positive overall glaring light in that week 2 game was Fred Warner. I mean, come on, he was everywhere. Got the second punch out for the second week in a row. And he's kind of the emotional guy in the locker room, the one to kind of rally the troops, if you will. And he said after the game, he's like, there's just one too many. I'll get it next time. I should have done this. I could have done that. And I have to say, after being in practice yesterday, talking to Fred, he's going to be the guy that makes sure that they don't have the same reaction, that they don't come out of the Rams game with that same kind of intention of like, oh, my bad. And I think they rally around him. So I think Fred is kind of the gold star in that week 2 matchup on the defensive side.
See, I love that positive attitude. That's why they got a statue of you over in Tucson, right? Because of your great attitude. Now, Aaron Levine over in Seattle, the Seattle Seahawks are 2-0. That's right. I didn't stutter. The Seahawks are undefeated. They win without Kenneth Walker. I know you're a Price is Right legend. What went right for the Seahawks in this game? What was the best thing you saw from your Seattle Seahawks?
You are a legend, Richard. You've gone back and looked at all the archives of all of our histories and bios. Yes, I was on the Bob Barker version of Price is Right. It has to be the emergence, though, of Jackson Smith and Jigba. 12 catches on 16 targets, 117 yards. I know it was part of the game plan with Ken Walker III out. This was only the start of something big for the second-year player. We watched it all offseason. There was an OTA session where JSN caught 8 touchdown passes in red zone and team drills. He's going to be a factor this year. And last week was also the first time in franchise history that they had a pair of receivers finish with 10 or more catches and 100 or more rushing yards in the same game, or receiving yards in the same game, with JSN and DK Metcalf. When you have those two and Tyler Lockett in clutch situations, it's just going to come down to whether the offensive line can hold up, because in Ryan Grubb's offense, they can be incredibly dangerous.
That's for sure. It's been a good start for the Seattle Seahawks. They're at the top of the division. Of course, here in Arizona, you know what I'm going to talk about, right? Marvin Harrison Jr., the guy's got the nickname, right? You know the nickname. It's not Mazda Miata Marv. It's not Mitsubishi Marv. It's Maserati Marv. And what do you do with a Maserati? You get that thing out on the highway, you put the pedal to the metal, and you see what it's got, right? And that's what the Cardinals did in week 2. They reminded me of that guy who puts more into his car than he does into his relationships, right? Because they were all about the Maserati in the first quarter against the Rams. And that was bad news for those guys in L.A. Sorry, Gerard, right? What a first quarter for Marvin Harrison. Over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a great game in the first quarter alone. That's why he was the Nickelodeon Player of the Week. He got slimed after the game. So this guy came through, and I love the way he handled the bad week 1. He was cool and calm, sounding like a veteran, saying, my time will come, and sure enough, it came, and it came quick for the Arizona Cardinals. They came through, giving it to him, and he changed the game, that's for sure. All right, now let's move on to week number 3. We've got a division game again, right? Back-to-back division games for the Rams. Gerard, we start with you and the Rams. You got enough Scotch tape and Bengay to get a team together? You guys are like the walking wounded out there. What's it going to take for the Rams to get their first win of the season?
Richard, it's a very interesting situation, but Sean McVay actually lives for these type of underdog scenarios. Now, surprisingly, even though the Rams right now, the last time I checked, they were a 7.5-point underdog in this game, the playing field is somewhat level because the 49ers don't have their Ram killers. Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel have been the difference makers every time the Rams and 49ers have played in the regular season. They turn 6-yard gains into 26-yard gains. And these games have all been fairly close if you go back and look at the ones, especially here in LA. But it always turns out to be a McCaffrey play that kind of sways the way this thing usually turns out, where Kyle Shanahan has owned Sean McVay. If the Rams are going to have success on Sunday, though, DeMarcus Robinson, Jordan Whittington, and Tyler Johnson, the 3 receivers with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp out, are all going to have to shine. In order for that to happen, this offensive line, which will have Alaric Jackson back, is going to have to protect Matthew Stafford much better than they did on Sunday against the Cardinals, or Matthew Stafford could end up on the IR as well against that 49er defense. A wounded animal, 0-2, a lot of injuries, is a dangerous animal. 49ers come in off of a loss as well, but the Rams know this is the ultimate desperation that they've got to play with on Sunday. I think it's going to be a close game. I do.
It's always a close game between those two.
Well, Bailey, you know, the 49ers are banged up too, right? No Christian McCaffrey, no Deebo. You know, you just heard Gerard say the Rams are going to be like a wounded animal. I'm sure the 49ers are not happy after their loss to Minnesota. What do they got to do to get back into the win column?
Well, yeah, you talk about obviously Deebo and CMC, 2 big losses there, but George Kittle not practicing on Thursday today. So we don't know if he's going to be a go on Sunday. So that could be a big question mark too. Those are, of course, 3 of their biggest offensive weapons. So then the question mark turns to Brock Purdy. How good is Brock Purdy when he doesn't have all of his weapons? But I think the biggest question mark is going to be Brandon Ayuk. We know he just signed that 4-year, $120 million contract. He has only 6 receptions through the first 2 weeks of this season for less than 80 yards. So everybody's looking for him to have a big night. Now it's kind of his golden opportunity. Is he going to take advantage of the situation? Is he going to become that guy when they need him to be that guy? With all of those offensive weapons out, I think that's who they're going to turn to. And we're going to have to see, right? Can he turn that 6-yard play into a 26-yard play? So I think that's kind of the big question mark in this game for the Niners is how is that offense going to play? But we know the Niners defense is tough. And Matthew Stafford, I know we mentioned it earlier, got sacked 5 times last week. We talked to Nick Bosa about that. He's well aware of it. And the other thing is yeah, the Rams don't want to drop 3 in a row, but Kyle Shanahan said yesterday the Niners don't want to drop 2 in a row, right? He kind of said it's, in direct quote, it's kind of an Armageddon feeling when you lose 2 games in a row in the NFL. So I think both teams have a lot that they're going to be fighting for. The Rams maybe a little more, but I think when it comes to injuries, these teams are actually relatively similar, which I think will make an even more interesting matchup. I don't want to say better, right, because we don't like these injuries on either sides for either team, but I do think it's going to be a whole lot more interesting.
Yeah, Bailey, great point. The good teams do not lose 2 in a row. Hey, the Seattle Seahawks are looking to win 3 in a row. Aaron Levine, the preseason continues for Seattle, right? First, you had a rookie quarterback in week 1 in Denver. Then you had a rookie head coach in New England in week 2. Now you got the Dolphins without Tua. What kind of rabbit's foot you guys got out there? This is some pretty favorable matchups for you guys. Could the Seahawks go 3-0?
Oh, I think they should, and I hope they will. I mean, this is, you just play the games on your schedule and look up and you're 3-0. This all comes down to the running game on both sides of the ball. I mean, find a way to get their running game going, even if Ken Walker is out. You need more of a balanced attack on offense, that's for sure. And then defensively, they got to be able to stop the run. They gave up 185 rushing yards to the Patriots last week. That's a number Mike McDonald said made him sick to his stomach. This was the Achilles heel for the Seahawks last year. They were one of the worst rushing defenses in the league. And this week, you mentioned it, Skylar Thompson at quarterback for the Dolphins. The Dolphins are going to need to find success on the ground. So, again, the Seahawks need to control the line of scrimmage, especially in the run game. That's how you control the clock also. They might be 2-0, Richard, but they've lost time of possession the last couple of games. And you know, if the defense is tired, they're not always going to be able to hold up down the stretch of games.
Right. And the good thing for the Seahawks is Dan Marino's not walking through that door. So you guys are going to be just fine. Right here in the desert, I think it's going to be a shootout, a slugfest, a track meet. You get the picture. A high-scoring affair as the Arizona Cardinals take on the Lions. They used to be the lie-downs, right? Not anymore. This Lions team is one of the best in the NFC. They were one win away from the Super Bowl last year. For the Cardinals to get the victory, their second in a row here at home, they have to do what they did against the Rams, right? Control the game, run the football. If it's not broke, don't fix it. James Conner right, James Conner left. Let that play action set up those long bombs to Marvin Harrison Jr. You got to control the clock, keep that Lions offense off the field, keep it close. You don't want to get down early to this Lions team, right? One, that offense is tough, and when they get going, look out. Two, Aiden Hutchinson's on the other side of the football. You don't want to be in obvious passing situations if you're there to the Cardinals and have them just pinning the ears back and going after Kyler Murray. So you want to have a good balance of run and pass. Get your defense involved early. Get some pressure on Jared Goff. Force him to make some mistakes. Keep it close. And then see who has the ball at the end and see if you can get the win. That's for sure. And see what happens. See if you can win 2 in a row at home. All right, we're just getting started. Coming up after the break, we find out who's going to be the best of the West. Who will be the star for your team in week number 3? That's coming up. We continue the NFC West Huddle. We are back with the NFC West Huddle, and we want to know who will be the best in the NFC West in week number 3. Who will shine when the lights are brightest? We start with Aaron Levine in Seattle. Aaron, who's going to be the man for the Seahawks when the Hawks take on the Dolphins?
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Seahawks cornerback Devin Witherspoon. He's had a decent start to the year, 14 tackles so far. But this is a game he can really disrupt Miami and their offense. They've been sending him on a number of blitzes so far this year. He just hasn't gotten home so far. I think this is the week that he does it, creating havoc in the backfield when his name is called. And with Skylar Thompson at quarterback for the Dolphins, I'm thinking Witherspoon also gets his first interception of the season. Listen, he finished 4th in voting last year for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think he believes he should have won. So Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, they got a lot of attention last season defensively as rookies. I think Witherspoon is the one who makes the greatest and most lasting impact over the course of his career. And it starts this week against Miami.
Gerard, several guys are out for the Rams. They're going to have to go with that next man up mentality. Who's going to be the guy that's going to step up with the Rams in this must-win situation?
Richard, it's going to be a collective effort. It's not going to be one guy. It'll be impossible against the 49ers in that defense. I think the Rams are obviously going to have a trouble again running the football against Fred Warner and company. So I'm going to go with Demarcus Robinson, Jordan Whittington, and Tyler Johnson. The 3 wide receivers are going to have to be huge. If the Rams are even going to be in this game at all, expect plenty of 3-step drops from Matthew Stafford to get rid of the ball. These guys have had enough experience with Stafford now so that they should be on the same page when you have these choice routes where the route is depicted on where the DB is playing. That shouldn't be an issue. They've had enough reps with Stafford. I see the 3 wide receivers being the key to the Rams staying in the game on Sunday.
All right, Bailey, who you got balling out in San Francisco? Please tell me it's Brandon Ayuk, the former Sun Devil.
Well, he was going to be kind of my tail end answer, but we were just talking about this Niners defense, and I think Fred Warner has really stood out to me as kind of he's been the guy, I mean, for a couple years now, but this season he's separated himself, right? There's a ton of great guys on this Niners defense, future Hall of Famers, but Fred Warner has really separated himself, especially just in the last 2 weeks. So he's everywhere. He's all over the field. He's your worst nightmare when you're an offense. You don't want to go against Fred Warner and the rest of the 49ers defense. So I think it's going to be a big day for Fred. But I also think, as you mentioned, BA, that he's got to have a good game. If the Niners have a chance in winning this, right, you're as much work as your defense can do. And we know Fred and this Niners defense can force fumbles. They can get interceptions. But if you're not scoring points, you're not winning the game, right? So I think a lot comes down to Brock and BA. Can their timing get right? Can they find that rhythm on offense, something the Niners really haven't done that well? It's still early, but I think this is the week where they've got to do that. They've got to dig deep, and they've got to find that on the offensive side.
Yeah, they gave BA his money. It's time for him to start earning that money, right? All right, here in Arizona, you know who I'm going with. Kyler Murray. I mean, the guy was absolutely fantastic, a perfect quarterback rating. And for me, that was good and bad. It was good to see Kyler Murray do well, but bad because Kyler Murray was playing against the Chimichangas. That was bad news for my fantasy football team. So because of Kyler Murray, the Chimichangas lost to, like a good neighbor, Saquon is there. So the Jimmy Nation is not happy, but the Cardinal fans are happy. And when Kyler Murray is playing the way he played this past weekend, the Cardinals are tough to beat. I mean, when he runs around, it's demoralizing for a defense. He can create with his legs, with his arm. He was so cool and calm in the pocket. He did a fantastic job. If he plays like that, look out. The Cardinals are going to be tough to beat, that's for sure. All right, it's break time. We got plenty more to talk about. We play our favorite game, Fair or Foul. Yeah, some interesting statements. We find out what you guys have to say about my statement. That's coming up after the break on the NFC West Huddle. And we are back, and it's my favorite part of the show. It's the Fair or Foul segment. That's where I make a statement, and you guys tell me whether it's fair or foul. In other words, whether you agree with the statement or not. Let's start with Gerard in LA. And Gerard, my statement is, if the Rams lose this game, you guys are done-ski. It's over. Season is done. 0-3, 0-2 in the division, just too tough to overcome. Is that fair or is that foul?
Absolutely fair. With the finish the Rams had here, winning a bunch of games, sneaking in as a wild card, playing the Lions to a 1-point game on the road in a game that they very easily could have won if a referee had thrown his flag. Not making the playoffs would be an absolute failure and disappointment for the Rams this year. Here's the stat I'm going to give you. Only 6 teams since 1979 have made the playoffs after starting 0-3, and only one since the year 2000 has made it. No teams starting 0-3, 0, have ever won the Super Bowl. So this is a must-win, because most likely they lose to the 49ers on Sunday. They will not make the postseason, and the season in general will be a failure.
Wow. Tell them like it is, Gerard. I love it. They can't handle the truth. All right, Bailey, I got something to tell you. The 49ers are too beat up. They can't get back to their old form. Those deep runs into the postseason have taken their toll on the 49ers. What do you got to say about that? Fair or foul?
I say it's foul. We're still pretty early on. If we were in week 9, week 10, I might say fair, but I'm going foul. It's early on in the season. And Christian McCaffrey, we know he's on IR now, but right before the team put him on IR, what he told us in the locker room is that hopefully it's a chess move. So I think they know what they're doing, right? They're going to take these injuries and they're going to let these guys heal because, hey, they want to make another deep run. They have kept it no secret that it is Super Bowl or bust this year. Brandon Ayuk, Debo, they said it on Debo's podcast just a couple days ago. So they know in that locker room it's all or nothing this year. And I think that they're going to take their time. They're going to let these guys heal so that they can make another deep run because they know everybody's old, right? Well, not everybody, but Brock's pretty young. But a lot of these guys are on the older end of their career. They're on the second half. So they got to let them heal. But I don't think they're too beat up just yet. Come back to me week 10 and we'll check in. But I think for week 3, we're good to go.
Bailey, you're killing me here. If those guys are old, I'm ancient. Oh boy, I'm in big trouble. That's for sure. All right. Hey, Aaron, I got something to tell you, man. I know you're a Geno Smith guy, but he's not that guy, bro. He can't do it. You're not going to win a Super Bowl with Geno running the show. Am I saying something that's fair or foul here?
I got to go foul. If Trent Dilfer and Brad Johnson and Nick Foles can win Super Bowls, Geno Smith can also. I'm not saying this season necessarily, because while there's so much attention placed on quarterbacks, championships are a combination of the quarterback and the team around you. I mean, listen, if the Niners had won it all last year, Brock Purdy wasn't going to be the main reason they won, although he is a serviceable guy and they do well when he doesn't make mistakes. I would say the same thing for Geno Smith. I mean, if he takes care of the football, makes the right decisions, manages this offense the way it should, the potential is there for a 40,000-yard season, 30 or more touchdown passes. With the right team around him, that's more than enough to win a Super Bowl. And I think at this point, he has the intangibles. Now, no quarterback led more game-winning drives last season. He had another one last week against the Patriots. He stays calm under pressure. I think it's possible for sure.
Did you hit me with the Trent Dilfer? Ray Lewis is playing for the Seahawks? I did not know that. I did not know the Seattle Seahawks defense is that good. Interesting stuff, Aaron Levine out in Seattle. All right, my producer Mark Mowrich gave me this one. He says, the Cardinals are a fluke. That win against the Rams, they were depleted. It's a fluke. Well, hold on here. I say foul, foul, foul. Did you not see that Bills game? The Cardinals went toe-to-toe with the Bills in Buffalo. Then all of a sudden, you see the Bills looking really good against the Dolphins. That's when I started to say, hey, maybe the Bills are that good. The Cardinals aren't that bad. Then they clean the clock of the the Rams, and they take care of them. So if they beat the Lions, look out. The Arizona Cardinals are for real. So I'm saying that is foul. I think the Cardinals are trending in the right direction. And I say, man, time flies when you're having fun. We're running out of time here. We got one last segment. We go into the break now, but when we come back, we check in on your predictions. Who's going to win and why? And tell me about the spread, too. It's coming up after the break on the NFC West Huddle. All right, it's time to wrap things up. It's closing time, but it's also prediction time. We want to know what you think about your team. Will they win? Bailey, we start off with you. The 49ers are favored by almost a touchdown. Do they win? And more importantly, do they cover? Because my money's kind of funny and my credit don't get it, so I need to make some money on this deal.
You know, I was going back and forth on this all day. I actually think, don't call me crazy, I think the Niners might drop this one. I think the Niners lose 2 in a row, and I think they learn from it. I think it'll be a lesson. I do still think it's going to be close, but I think it's going to go the other way. So I think the Rams are going to win this one, probably just about by a touchdown. I think it'll be a one-score game, but I think the Rams come out on top. I do think they have a little bit more on the line. I know we just talked about the fact that if they drop this one, their season could be over. So I think the Rams have more on the line. I think they take this one, but I do think it's close. I do think it's close.
Wow. Who are you and what have you done with Bailey O'Carroll? What happened to that positive attitude we started the show with? Gerard, is Bailey right here? Is it upset special in Tinseltown? Is that the bet here?
Richard, give the lady her due. I am completely in agreement with Bailey on this. With Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel out of this game, as I said earlier in the show, the playing field is level. This comes down to basically a battle of the quarterbacks, and I'm going to take Matthew Stafford over Brock Purdy. I'm just going to. This will be a low-scoring, very close game. I'm not going to agree with Bailey that it'll be a Rams win by a touchdown. I think it'll be a very late field goal that decides this. But this is a great spot for Sean McVay in terms of motivation. Everything is on the line. They know that. They got embarrassed in the first half against Detroit and embarrassed over 4 quarters last week. Injured animals are dangerous animals. That's who the Rams are heading into their home opener, by the way, even though there'll be a lot of Niner fans there. Home opener in week 3 against their arch rival.
All right, that's going to be an interesting game, that's for sure. Aaron, it's the Seahawks -4 with the Dolphins in town. I know Skylar Thompson's not a household name, but he's not Bo Nix either. What do you think? Do the Seahawks go 3-0, and do they cover?
Yeah, I think they do both. In fact, you mentioned Bo Nix in the first game. Now Skylar Thompson. Those are your first two opposing quarterbacks in your first two home games of the season. I mean, we all expected weeks 3 and 4 against the Dolphins and Lions to be really big tests early in the season, which is why starting 2-0 is so important. It's an early break for the Hawks, but not having Tua on the other side of the ball. But they have to take advantage of it, and I think they will. A chance to start 3-0 for the 8th time in franchise history. The last 5 times they've done so, they have reached the playoffs. So, yeah, I like the Seahawks to win this one by a couple of scores, and that will set up a really fun Monday night matchup at the Detroit Lions in a couple of weeks.
All right, great prediction there. Okay, I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret here. This is just between us and everybody else. I've heard from my brother's sister's cousin's friend that allegedly, you got to throw allegedly in there so you don't get sued, that the Cardinals, they have team meetings and they watch this show and hang on every word of ours. They love you guys, right? So last week when I picked the Rams, they got fired up and they got motivated and they won. So I'm going to play that reverse psychology again and pick the Lions this week to keep them motivated. So I say the Lions get the win in a shootout, 33-32. So take the over. The Lions don't cover, but take the over. A lot of points in this one. So look, I know the Cardinals are watching. Like I said, they love this show. They all get in a circle. They watch you guys. They love you guys. So let's see if the Cardinals get motivated by my prediction once again. I know you guys want to keep hanging out all night long, right? But hey, we got work to do. We got to go. Thanks for hanging out with us. We've got gifts coming your way. Thanks for being on the show. And let's do it again next week. And go Chimichangas.